From AIT Studios in Abuja, Nigeria, this is the O&N Late Show with Obiora Ilo and Mamode Akuga.
Celebrating in the United States because the oil price has gone down. Yes, getting less than $50.
Yes, and as a matter of fact, the price of fuel has come down. Well, I spent my New Year in the States, and I mean, you could watch TV and over again, you could see the celebration of the fact that the price of fuel has come down.
Even in Ghana, people are celebrating that the prices of the pump price, in their countries have also come down.
But you know, it leads me to ask a very important question, and what a lot of people say all the time, that you know, in Nigeria, if something goes up, it never comes down. It beats me really. I don't understand it.
Well, we pray this one comes down.
We hope so. Well, I hope you're right. It's already the season of elections, and today the parties took a very important step at kickstarting their campaigns.
Yes, in Port Harcourt, the APC kicked off their campaign with their presidential candidate and the vice presidential candidate leading the campaign.
Yes, and if we must say, because AIT transmitted it live.
Yeah, earlier today.
Yes, it was well attended. For a lot of people, and people who watch democracy, you know, and study democracy, a lot of people will say, you know, watching an opposition grow, you know, it's good for Nigerian democracy.
I think it's good, and as if the PDP was taking a cue, yesterday, because of the loss of Mr. President, the inauguration of the presidential campaign could not start. And we use this opportunity to extend our condolences to Mr. President and his family. Because of that loss. Yeah, very unfortunately. Because of that loss, the inauguration did not take place, but it took place today, and the campaign team is in place.
And Obiora, you know, something that came out of Mr. President, very heartwarming, very impressive. I mean, you can't take that from President Jonathan. At any point in time, he's always told people, do not get involved in acts like violence. His blood is not worth, you know, his ambition. It's not worth the blood of anybody. And rightly so, he told members of his own campaign team that they must maintain decorum and they must watch their language and be very civil in the way they go about their campaigns. For me, it's wonderful development.
Yeah, I mean, that has been the thrust of his speeches in this season. I remember the inauguration, the kick of the presidential campaign, he did say that people should not spill blood. Nigerians should not sacrifice any life because someone wants to win an election. Well,
it's a good start.
Time is not on our side, so we'll take a break. When we return, our guests are already seated in the studio. We have Right Honorable Chibudem Nwuche, former Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives.
And if I may add, the current Esama of Ekpeye Kingdom. Probably will explain that to us when he comes on set.
We also have Orji, Ogbonnaya Orji, reporter, public affairs manager turned author. He just came out with a book, What They Don't Teach You in Broadcasting.
Maybe he'll teach us here today.
Yes.
And you can't forget that name, Ogbonnaya, Orji Ogbonnaya, for a lot of people who used to listen to radio.
Yes.
Wonderful reporter.
Yes, and joining them to complete our lineup this evening, we have a young Nigerian, Yushua Aliyu Bagudo, who is a coordinator of the Jonathan Youth Vanguard.
Yes.
All this.
We're going to be talking to him about youth interest in President Jonathan, because for him and some of the youths, they want to see Jonathan return. So we want to be asking them later on why.
So we take a break. When we return, our guests will be joining us.
I am Mamode Akuga. For almost 3 decades, I have been involved in broadcast journalism, with the better part of that time in the gathering and production of news and news programs. I'm proud to have pioneered weekday morning news talk show on Nigerian television, first with AM TV Live on DBN television, and later with Kakaki on AIT.
I am Obiora Ilo. Over 30 years ago, I started my career at Radio Nigeria. Over these long years, I've presented several programs and interviewed hundreds of guests, men and women, the big stars and the not well known. the rich and the poor, politicians, movie stars, journalists, the good, the bad, and the ugly, as they say. You just name them. I've also covered events across the world, from Europe to America, from Asia and back to Africa, bringing first-class reports.
Now, together with Obiora, I will be coming to your screens 2 nights a week, Tuesdays and Fridays, with the O&M Late Show.
From 6th January 2015, Mamode and I will be bringing our decades of experience to bear on our new talk show, the O&M Late Show.
In our careers, we have blazed many trails, and we are thrilled and ready to set new records with nighttime television. The O&M Late Show,
your late night catch-up.
Yes, you're still watching the O&M Late Show, and we're going to be bringing on our first guest tonight. He is a former Deputy Speaker of Nigeria's House of Representatives, Right Honorable Chibudem Nwuche, who, of course, newly conferred with the traditional title of the Esama of Ekpeye Kingdom.
Thank you very much.
Yes, just...
That's a good
You're
evening.
welcome. Good to see you. Please sit down.
Yeah, sure. Right Honorable, I was just saying, you know, Esama, a lot of people, when you mention Esama, you know, they can relate it with the Benin Kingdom and
Yes.
Chief Igbenedion.
Correct.
In your kingdom, the Ekpeye, will that translate to traditional prime minister? What is it?
Well, it means the full moon. You know, Ekpeye people trace their history to Benin.
Okay.
That's our history from Benin. So we have common words with the Benin Kingdom. Esma means the moon, just like in Benin Kingdom.
Okay.
That's
So in
what
other
it
words,
is.
you are the moon of Ekpeye Kingdom.
I must thank His Royal Majesty Eze Robinson, who conferred on me that title, and his Council of Chiefs. I feel very honored, and I'm also humbled by the gesture.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Well, you know, it's the season of politics. I was a little worried that you still had time to take your title at this very busy period of politics.
Yeah.
Today, in Port Harcourt, in South-South, your zone,
Yes.
the APC kicked off their campaign. At about the same time, the campaign team of the president was also inaugurated.
Yeah.
How do you see this battle for the villa in 2015? As a Nigerian, first.
Well, as a Nigerian, I think it's interesting. We have 2 major parties competing for the presidency, and they're both putting their positions forward. And Nigerians have a choice now. But I still believe that the PDP is a clear choice to make for Nigerians. And I'll tell you why if you give me time.
Oh, no, go ahead.
But I think
Yes.
democracy, by definition, should be a contest of ideas. And that is why I've always craved that the debate about 2015 should be about the policies of the parties, or the policies of individual governors or members of the National Assembly. It shouldn't be about personalities. So I think the APC has a right to advocate what they can offer Nigerians, and the PDP luckily has a track record they're running with. We've done 6 years under Goodluck Jonathan, so we can showcase what we've achieved in healthcare, in infrastructure, in railways, etc. So they're running on promises. We're running on achievements we've recorded so far. So I think it'll be interesting.
Yes, a lot of Nigerians are expecting that, you know, there will be a lot of talk about, you know, the ideas and programs that your party, PDP and APC, want to put out there. But we're still seeing a little bit of distraction in campaigns. For instance, there was a talk about fake certificate for the APC presidential, you know, candidate, and you know, issues like that that do not really affect the lives of ordinary Nigerians. I mean, that does not in any way affect the construction of a road or building of a hospital. Are you disappointed that we still go back to those type of things?
Well, it's unfortunately the requirement of certificates and qualifications is constitutional. To be a president, you must have at least O levels, yes, from what the constitution says. Maybe that is why those things are important. Otherwise, they should not be. But I believe that those who aspire to govern must have certain qualifications. You cannot just be an illiterate and want to govern a country like Nigeria in 21st century. It's very difficult because it's now the internet age, the computer age. And you look at other countries, their presidents are young and vibrant, and they're very intellectual. They're mostly graduates. I don't know of any in the Western world who's not a graduate, at least with a first degree or a master's. So I think that Nigeria must begin to punch her weight. We're a large country. We must choose our best to govern us at every level, whether be it governors, be it our president. They must have certificates that are verifiable.
Okay, PDP keeps talking about verifiable track record. And then some Nigerians are saying, does the insurgency we have in Nigeria and how the government has tackled it verifiable track record? The not so, according to some people, distinguished impact in electricity, power supply, is that the track record that the PDP is talking about? Or some of the roads that are still troubling Nigerians? When you talk about these verifiable track records, share it with us.
Well, let me begin with power. For the first time, even the World Bank has acknowledged that the power process in terms of its privatization was transparent, and it's been sold to the private sector. They have to now begin to find investments to ramp up the power output. That's where we are. So at least that one, it's clearly on the road to be fixed, on that road, clearly. Don't forget that before now, we'd spent so much money, before Goodluck's administration, to fix that sector. Those monies were, I think some figures say $18 billion or so, roughly about that. But we could not see any clear achievements. But at least now, we have taken it out of government control to private hands. And in Nigeria, we know that government cannot control power. It will not work. There will be no light. So at least they've taken the first step. The same way we treated the telecom sector. That's how power is going to go. So it's a matter of time. Power will improve. On the insurgency is it's a global issue, terrorism. And our borders are too large to police by just one nation. I believe that the government is doing its best. Of course, there's room for improvement, but there's a clear effort to tackle the insurgency. And of course, you know that the Islamic fundamentalism has grown international, so they're also getting help from outside of Nigeria. So what we require now is assistance from our neighbors, from the international community, to contain the rise in insurgency. I think the government is doing its best. It should keep putting pressure on insurgents to expel them from Nigeria, or to at least to quell their aggressiveness and to stop them from taking more territories. That's very important. Yeah. And don't forget that Nigerians, for us, the insurgency is new. We never had terrorism in this country until lately. Yeah. Nigerians will never wear belts to blow themselves up. They could be angry, but not to that extent. So it's a new phenomenon. So I believe that our armed forces are perhaps also learning on the job as they go along. But I believe that with support from Nigerians and the international community that we can contain the insurgency.
Okay. Now,
then on the issue of roads, I came to Abuja in 1999 when I became a member of the House of Representatives. And when I came, I drove by road from Port Harcourt through Enugu, Lokoja to Abuja. That road wasn't fixed for the 8 years of the first government. That road was the way it was. But at least now I see a clear sign of it being fixed. Some part of it has been fixed now. So the first government that came, the first, our own tenure, for instance, there were provisions in the budget for that road, but it wasn't done. It wasn't done for the first 8 years, but it's been done now. Even though I know that they can be done faster, but at least they've begun that process. And there are many other roads that have been also fixed. Some resurfaced, some refurbished, some newly built. So I think the effort's going on.
All right. Yeah. Very quickly, because we're out of time, and we must let you go very shortly. But before you go, I would like to get your reaction. When you get to even beer parlors these days, the discussion about, governance, about the elections, about PDP, about APC. No, as a matter of fact, let me narrow it down to the region where you are from, which is the South-South. It was predominantly a PDP region before this time. Eventually, they lost out at those states to APC. And without an election, they also lost out I mean in government, so to speak, Rivers State, your state, the governor went to APC. And the internal wranglings, whether it's in Akwa Ibom, where the gubernatorial candidate now used to be Secretary to State Government in PDP, has moved to APC to take up the ticket. The internal wranglings in Cross River, you know, and Bayelsa, where you had the former governor, Timothy Silva, a staunch stalwart of APC and all that. Do you feel PDP losing power gradually?
Well, I don't believe so. I believe that the problems of the party, the PDP, in, for instance, Rivers State, Akwa Ibom and then Bayelsa State, is to do with the size of the party. It's a large party, and these are internal problems that normally manifest during the primaries. The party is making efforts to reconcile these differences and has gone a long way in many of the states. And in other states, the efforts are ongoing. I see it as part of the democratic process, that primaries often will throw up issues which parties must resolve, and the PDP is doing so. I don't see much threat to the PDP in the South-South. In the South-South,
you remain confident?
Very confident. We have a way of disagreeing to agree in the South-South, and that will manifest very shortly.
Yeah, Honorable, well, you know how it is, the challenges we have today, so we have to let you go. Okay. I'm sure we'll have a more elaborate discussion on another day.
Thank you very much.
We'll take a break. When we return, we'll have more discussions on the O&M Late Show.
Because we want him to go back. Even if you don't come here, we keep praying for him. Because the first one we did, we were not here. We are not psychopathic. Because you and your husband have done well in fact of the distraction. They are distracting you so that you will not achieve much. You have done this without distraction. What of if there is no distraction? So go ahead. Go with the consolation of the Holy Spirit. The anointing of the Lord says, God will make your family great. Jonathan must bring back the Chibok girls. Is Jonathan holding them? So anybody positioning the concept of Jonathan must bring back the Chibok girls, then such people are holding the girls. They should release them. Good luck, Jonathan. The good luck in the Jonathan has become a bad luck to Nigerians. Whatever brought him in should send him back. And let Nigeria be. Roads built by Buhari and Babangidas, the so-called Hausa people, cannot be maintained. We need change.
Glad to know you're still with us on the O&M Late Show. And joining us is the coordinator, Jonathan Youth Vanguard, Yushua Aliyu Bagudo. Yushua, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, my brother.
Welcome.
Fine,
Welcome.
thank you.
Welcome to the program.
Fine, thank you.
Yes.
Let's let me take some water.
Yeah, Yushua, I would like to know, what is the interest of the Nigerian youth in this year's elections?
Right. Thank you very much for having this wonderful opportunity. First of all, let me start by, giving you just a short brief on what our organization is all about. Jonathan Youth Vanguard, as the name implies, is a youth initiative movement that have come in solidarity for Mr. President. This movement started since 2005, and that was when Mr. President was deputy governor, when he declared his intention to run for governorship. After which, when he was given also an opportunity to go for president, he also tried to see if he had spread the whole organization, this country.
Nationally?
Yes, nationally. Well, basically, we stand for youth interest. It goes this way. we look at this Jonathan Youth Vanguard as a solid platform through which the youth of this country will benefit from government programs and policies. We have a database where we actually register our youths, and whenever they are facing any challenges that require our support, we try to, to support them so that they will be empowered, which is one of the, great intention of Mr. President.
Okay, Yushua.
Yes.
For youths, obviously, you are interested in seeing the president return in 2015.
Yes, of course.
Yes. What will inform that situation? What kind of benefits have youths gotten since Jonathan became president?
Thank you very much. That was a very good question. When you look at this present administration, you notice that they have done a lot in terms of youth empowerment. First, let me just mention some few here, because time will not allow us to actually cover everything. There's this You-Win program, which is purposely meant for youth, and it goes this way. It operates in three. It's going to operate in 3 cycles, which I think it has done the first and second cycle. Now in the last cycle, which is the 3rd cycle. Out of this, 2,400 winners were selected, and it's created about 26,000 jobs, and also 80,000 jobs are still expected through the You-Win program. There's also this graduate internship scheme, which is being handled by Shopee, and the main this thing there is to actually, attach 50,000 graduates to a competent business, so that way they can be now like employees of labor, and in multiply effect it goes along to also reduce the rate of employment in the country.
Okay. Yeah,
yes.
I'm glad you're talking about employment.
Yes,
and
yes.
Unemployment is a challenge for a lot of youths.
Of course.
But more importantly, as we enter this election year, a lot of people are worried about the roles the youth play in elections. Thuggery.
Yes.
Violence.
Exactly.
What is your stand as an organization?
Right. Like I said earlier, this organization was formed since 2005. What actually, makes us to stand out from different, organizations is that most organizations that are formed in support for Mr. President actually collapse immediately after election. So something is missing there, because instead of them to stay and fight for, the interests of the youth that have support them, but it collapsed for reasons best known to them. But this organization has been in existence since 2005, and we have operational office through which we receive complaint and try to see how we can. So we mediate between governments and the youth. Also, when you look at our programs, the programs we're putting ahead of 2015 election, you notice that most of them geared towards post-election violence, issues like all these insurgency and all that, because most of these things, in fact, almost 80% are the youths that that suffers from most of these problems. So that's why we try to curtail the youths involvement in such crimes. Yes.
All right, I'm afraid that's the most we can take.
Okay.
Yushua Aliyu.
No problem.
Yes. Of course.
Thanks for the opportunity. Looking forward to have another
opportunity.
Yes,
thank you so much for this.
It's all right. It's okay.
All right. Yes, you're still watching the ONM Late Show. We will return very shortly, and then when we come back, we'll be speaking with Ogbonnaya Orji.
Due to sound economic policies, focused and determined leadership, Nigeria has in just 4 years risen to become the largest economy in Africa. Airports have been overhauled and are rapidly being remodeled to global standards. Our railways too have been revived after more than 3 decades of neglect. As a result of well-articulated agricultural policies, rice production has improved more than any other time in Nigeria's history, just as food importation has dropped considerably. The education sector has been reformed, the industrial sector is being revived and has begun to show signs of promise as a means of boosting our economic strength. How can a leader some say is clueless achieve all this and more in just 4 years? Nigeria, the facts are there before you. Think Nigeria, vote good luck. This message is brought to you by the Wind of Hope.
Yes, you're still watching the O&M Late Show. Now we'll be talking to Ogbonnaya, Orji Ogbonnaya, author of the book, What They Do Not Teach You in Broadcasting.
Well, Orji was a reporter for Radio Nigeria for many years. At the point, he was advisor to the Minister of Information. At the point, he was media advisor to
welcome
to the Senate President. Orji, we are glad you're here.
Thank you very much.
So, you see, we are on the other side of our show, where we relax and talk about people like you, artists and authors. What informed you writing this book, What They Don't Teach You in Broadcasting?
Well, first of all, let me congratulate you guys for this very wonderful initiative. I think this will widen the opportunities for robust discussions during this time that we are facing general election in our country.
Thank you.
Well, for your question, I am delighted for the platform. I think for us in the media, we are very, very good in reporting and promoting events and promoting people and promoting issues that shape the society. But quite often, we do not have the time to take an in-depth look at ourselves. And I do think that having passed through the rudiments of this job for decades, I realized that there is a gap, a huge gap, between what we learn in school and when the actual work begins. Sitting down here, I have been seeing how even when you had challenges, the listener at home is only interested on the program taking off.
Yes.
He probably did not understand how long you've been here throughout the night, throughout the day, waiting for this program to happen. For a program to come out on air, there are a lot that go behind the scene that the listener do not know. I think we need a book to record those scenes for people to appreciate the kind of effort that people put in. Secondly, most people who probably teach in our universities, institutions of higher learning, many of them are very eloquent in class, but I'm not quite sure that if you give them a bulletin,
they know what to do with it.
Orji, this is the book, by the way, if our cameras can pick it up very well. Very quickly, Orji, I will ask you, because we're running out of time. Do they teach you how to report, elections, at least in the classroom? The kind of politicking that goes on in Nigeria, do they really teach you how to report it, how to be able to discern, properly when you should take a step backward from propaganda and report the truth, and what you can do with propaganda?
Yeah, because in chapter 5 of this book, you dealt with covering elections and all that. Are you saying it's not taught in school, or you have a different approach to it in practice?
The school gives you a broad outline of reporting various bits, whether it's politics, whether it's aviation, whether it's energy, whether it's health, whether it's sports. But I'm not quite sure they'll go into the details of what happens when you are now face-to-face with reporting politics. For instance, no school that I'm aware of will teach you how to understand that as a political reporter, you need to study the guidelines that guide the elections. You need to know the key players in the in the field. You need to even know their phone numbers. You need to be available. Sometimes wait outside the political party offices for nights waiting for information. Yes. Even when no information comes, the editor in the newsroom is waiting for story. He does not want to understand how. There are a lot that happens in the field that no teacher can possibly. What they do is to give us they equip us sufficiently to be able to understand how to use our initiatives for this to happen. Yes. This book is a story of initiatives. It's a story of practical experience.
Does this book also cover how to take initiatives when there's financial inducement to journalists?
Well, we spoke about ethics. Yes. We spoke about the ethics that challenge us daily on the field. And we also spoke, I gave practical examples of how those ethics we can overcome those ethics.
Yeah. I was going to ask you, do they teach you in broadcasting when you've prepared for a program at 11 and something happens and you have to start the program at 11:30 and then you have to contend with your guests that they have so much to say?
I'm sure you went to school. You probably will not imagine. You see, the emergencies, the exigencies, the man-to-man problems that you encounter daily
cannot be taught in school.
Cannot be taught in
school. We have to leave it here. Orji, yes. You have to give us a promise you're coming back.
Well, I will, but I want to congratulate you for this program once again. This part of the initial challenges, good things that last always face small challenges like this.
Thank you so much.
At that, you came out fine.
Thank you so much for the encouragement. Thank you so much.
We need to apologize to some of our initial and first edition advertisers that have put up some adverts with us that we are not unable to take because of what has happened today.
But I'm sure we should be able to take another one or two before we go out. The 12 midnight news is coming up shortly. But we have to draw the curtain here tonight. We'll be back on Friday at 11 p.m., God willing.
And then on Sunday at 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
All right, thank you so much. From me, Mahmoud Yakuga, thank you for watching.
From me, Obi Orilo, good morning.
Spice Supreme, the supreme spice in every dish.
Everywhere, millions of people gather all over the world for an encounter from heaven.
Every sick will be healed right now.
Since this young man was born, one side had been blocked, but it popped open right in his service. He can breathe in both nostrils. He is completely healed, Pastor.
Jesus! Come and experience God's power in another dimension. It's 5 Nights of Glory 2015, a place where impossibilities become possible. Date 19th to 23rd January 2015 at 4:30 p.m. daily. Venue Salvation Ministries, Plot 17 Beater Beach Street, GRA, Phase 1, Port Harcourt. You can also be a part of these services anywhere by attending our local viewing centers or online at 5nog.org. For other inquiries, call +234 700 447 7722. Come and experience God's power.